first of tonight's speakers, who is Graham. I'll give you a 5 minutes.
My name's Graham, and I'm Narcotics.
Hi,
Graham. Thank you very much for asking me. Thank you for everyone being here and doing service, and thank you for asking me to share. It's really nice to be at this meeting. I came here quite often for quite a few years, and it was a big part of my recovery. When I share, I just like to talk about some of the things that I do to stay clean on a daily basis. These things were mentioned to me really early on when I was struggling to get clean. And I'd try and get up in the morning and read just for a day. Try and pray, wish to stay clean for a day. And I'd try and talk to my on the phone every day. And early on, those things really sort of give me a ground in this stuff. In Narcotics Anonymous, we make a lot of small changes. A lot of small changes can have to really big changes and life-changing things. I came to an end to stop using drugs, but I found a new way of life, and life beyond my wildest dreams. So I'll talk about myself. I had a pretty normal family, normal upbringing, did okay at school in some subjects, I was good at maths and computers. And I was quite content, maybe drifting to fantasy a bit as a kid. In my sort of mid-teens, I found drinking drugs, and I liked them. I enjoyed doing them, and I did them more and more. And I got with my friends. If my friends wanted to take drugs on a night, on a Friday night, we'd all take them. If they didn't, I'd get some by myself and go home and use by myself afterwards. I always wanted to do more than everybody else. And when I first started using, I'd be going out to nightclubs and taking party drugs. I moved through a whole range of different drugs. And I'd do a drug for a bit of time, enjoy doing it, then I'd move on to another one. And pretty quickly, looking back to the drugs that I used, there were consequences. So I'd be blacking out, or drugs would be affecting mental health. When I did my step 1 response and looked at my powerlessness, I could see there were consequences straight away. When I was 18, I moved away to university, and I'd been hanging out with a group of people that I used with. I went to university, in a few days I hung around with a different set of people, so using and clubbing, and I did that for a few years, and I came back to where I'm from, in the holidays, and some of my friends have got more involved with drugs. I started hanging on with them, the progression to, it was quite bad. And I quickly lost interest in education and was hanging around and taking sort of dangerous sort of choice and living a dangerous life. And some of the people that I were involved with, the more serious the drug dealers you get involved with, the more trouble you can get with them, both in attacking you and how serious the crime, the stuff can be, and it was pretty bad. I didn't get, I didn't do sort of major crimes, but it was having a detrimental effect on my life. And I went to a counselling session at a place and said, what can you do? What can you do to help me? My life had become manageable. And they suggested going to meetings. And that was over 20 years ago. And I went to my first meeting. It was a small group of people. There's people that I'd used with, people that knew me. And I went to the meetings for a bit. Didn't really get involved with, and then drifted out. Did the meetings for a few months. There were only 2 meetings a week. So I did them both. Did them for 3 months. They're both step meetings, so I went through all the steps twice, but never got clean. And the consequences of using is that that I was miserable. All I wanted was money to find ways of means to get more. The effects on my family were really bad because it was easier getting money off them than and doing other things. And the monotony, just going to the same estates, seeing the same group of people, and I tried different things to get off of drugs. I tried courses, professionals, all sorts of things. I thought if I got in a relationship, I thought if I got, you know, I'd stay clean. I didn't. I thought if I got out of the relationship, I'd get clean. I didn't. They got clean, but I carried on using. And you know, education, whatever. I tried to find external ways to fix me. And a year later, I came back to an and tried it, and it worked for me. I did a lot of meetings. There weren't that many meetings where I lived at the time, but 4 a week, 5 a week, and you know, it worked. I went back to college, and I had you know, a few years of recovery, and then I drifted away. I stopped doing the things that had worked for me, drifted away from the meetings, and went back out and relapsed. And it took a couple of years to get back to meetings, and you know, 2.5 years going in and out of meetings, trying to get a third-day keyring, even though I knew this stuff would work for me before, you know, to make it work again. But I persisted, and eventually, a little over 13 years ago, I came in, got clean again, and stayed clean. And you know, I just did the suggested things. I went to a meeting a day. A lot of days I do 2 meetings. I do fellowship, do service. I went to unity days and conventions, and just threw myself into the program and did as much as I could. And it paid off. It took a while for the obsession about using. I thought about using for a long time. But over time, the obsession lifted after a few months, and situations and things that made me think of using. Eventually, you become used to staying clean. It becomes second nature. I think over my 2 periods of recovery, I've been clean longer than I used my drug of choice for, which is amazing. And because of doing this stuff, I know I've got a life from my wildest dreams. I've worked, I've made travel, I've been to conventions absolutely all over the place. You know, I've got friends, you know, from Christchurch in New Zealand, all the way around to Hawaii and Hawaii. You know, I know a lot of people, and this is a worldwide thing, and it can be really good to get to conventions and speak to people from, and hear people share from different continents and different countries. You know, in a way, the message is the same thing. The message is always the same, but there's different flavours to it. So service became a really big part of my recovery, and I did GSR position for a year, which is going to area and connecting the service structure. Then I did area secretary for a year, which was really good. I ended up serving at region for 12 months as secretary at region, and that connected me to people from all over the UK. And one of the guys that was the chair of the helpline for quite a few years, really nice guy, is sadly no longer with us, but he used to come to this meeting, and I used to come at this meeting, and he'd always welcome me, and there's other people that I got to know through doing service that were very involved with this meeting at the time. And you know, it really connects me to people. And I've been involved in all sorts of stuff for conventions, H9, PI. It's really, I got a lot of benefit early on, particularly from doing stuff to carry the message of stuff for an addict, and being involved with service, you know, connecting me to so many people, and really grounded me in this stuff. You know, I have a sponsor. I've had a few sponsors over the years. You know, and I've had different sponsors at different times. They've brought different things to me. You know, I have a sponsor. You know, talking to a sponsor and working with a sponsor is really important. Doing step work is really important. I was talking to a sponsor about step 6 quite recently, so I'm hoping to meet up. You know, talk to him about doing that. And you know, and I worked through the 12 steps. I worked through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, and you know, when I look back at my using, it was easy to see that I was powerless of my addiction, and my life wasn't manageable. I turned well over higher power, and you know, which you know, I didn't find hard. Some people find it hard than others, but it worked out. And it says at the end of step 3, you show you've handed your will, you know, you show you've worked step 3 by working step 4 and 5. I worked step 4 and 5, ultimately affects the character, you know, and I've been through the steps a few times. Some of the stuff defects I struggled with really on, like fear, I was really fearful when I'm travelling. I went away a few times, had some amazing experiences, and practiced spiritual principles faith, belief that things were better. And that when other defects like resentment, it can be harder to practice acceptance, and food as well. I can eat a bit too much sometimes, and it's sometimes I'm better with it. Sometimes it takes sometimes I'm better with it. Sometimes it takes a bit more working, but it's been really good. It's been a journey, and you see that some of the defects that I worked on early on have improved. Other defects of character, my awareness around them's better now, and it's a progression. Then I'm sort of step 8 and 9 making amends, and then it was really important to me. A lot of damage I'd done to my family, and then sort of 10, I taking daily inventory, meditation, and carrying the message in spiritual principles. And I think 10, 11, and 12 are really important to me. I do regular step 10s. I've been doing the same set of questions for a long time, so I go through it quite quickly. I try and do a bit of meditation on a regular basis, and live my spiritual principles and carry the message. And I find if I can keep on top of those things, my life's really good. I came on here because I was using drugs every day. My life had absolutely no point in it. I had absolutely nothing going for me. And it was like Groundhog Day. And now I've had the opportunity to meet people, to travel, to work, to connect, to have friendships. And I don't really think about using drugs. It's not something that's even when problems have come up for me, it's not something that's a go-to solution. And I really feel grateful that meetings are still here and people are here in the rooms to carry this message to me and for me to carry the message. It was quite hard during sort of COVID. I'm really grateful that a few years behind me and I could sort of get through that stuff. But it's nice to be back in in-person meetings or hybrid meetings again. And it's been a hard journey at first, but I've been fortunate that I've not had a lot of really big problems along the way. I sort of know that both my parents are healthy and alive, which I'm really lucky to have that and to have a good relationship with them. But over time, things come in that are big problems, and being in recovery doesn't exempt you from life on life's terms, and sometimes things do come up. But I hope that with the program and the 12 steps, I see many people get through problems in these rooms, and I hope that I'll deal with any big issues that come up. It's really amazing where all the years go. Suddenly you come in here and you come out, and then the years have flown by, and there's people that have been seeing me for a long time. They still come back, and lots of new people as well. And I'm grateful for what the program's given me. I was chatting with a few of my friends about doing some service last week, and I offered if they needed help with some service. They said yeah, they were grateful for the offer, and that they'd sort of use me if they could, which is really nice. I don't reach out to people as much as I used to, but I reached out to a few of my friends last week. I'm glad that I did it, and maybe I should make more of an effort and contact people. Things are really cool.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, cool, right? So just checking the time. The second year I covered absolutely loads of conventions, and I really loved it. I went to a convention in Liverpool. Went to one in Liverpool, one in Manchester, one in Glasgow, Bournemouth, London, UK and Birmingham. I think I went to a European, Moscow I think it was actually. And it was absolutely amazing getting to all those conventions and connecting with people. And the one in Moscow, some of the Americans were had been brought up during the Cold War, and Russia was the enemy, the Soviet Union was the enemy. And it was a real experience for them going to that convention there. And there's people that I see at conventions and I chat to, I'll only see every couple of years at certain conventions or certain service events, but I'll reconnect with them and I see them along the recovery journey, and it's really great to have the opportunity to get to know people. We're very lucky in London. There are, there's only 150, 200 meetings a week in London. There's lots of really good meetings. So if you didn't like this meeting, you didn't get anything from my share, just go to another meeting, because there's other people that carry a message to you. You know, and that's good. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.